You may or may not have heard about the conflict between the Congo and Rwanda. I wouldn't be surprised if you hadn't. And you might be saying, Josh, what are you bringing this up for? There's always conflict in Africa. Is this news? And I would say, yes, it is, because there are multiple different reasons that it is important for people in the Western world. Not only is it interesting, but also the fact that these represent very mineral-rich areas. Certain sides of the conflict seem to be backed more by Western aligned powers than others, in that the Chinese, obviously, and BRICS more generally, are trying to align themselves. Obviously, the Chinese very keen to get influence in Africa because of all of the minerals. And there's also the fact that lots of Western money is pouring into these countries. And so I wanted to look at all of this and how it intersects with the sort of conflict more generally. And I'm just going to presume that nobody knows anything because until I did the digging, I didn't either. And so here is a size comparison of Rwanda in orange versus, I think that's the Democratic People's Republic of the Congo, isn't it? The longer named one, because there's also another Congo here.
Just called Congo.
Which has a shorter name, yes. So to be clear, it's the big one, and versus that tiny little country there. And you might think, well, that's going to be quick. Well, not actually.
Rwanda's got a lot of experience murdering people, so...
That is true, and
but then again, so do
that's an
Congos.
excellent segue. So a lot of this kicked off following the Rwandan genocide of 1994, and pretty much there's been a breakdown of relations between Rwanda and the Congo ever since. And so after the Tutsi rebels, obviously led by Paul Kagame, their current leader of Rwanda, they put a stop to the genocide. About 1 million ethnic Hutus, who were the perpetrators of the genocide, fled to the Congo, basically fearing reprisals for what they had done, which makes perfect sense. So the fleeing Hutus and many of the ethnic Hutus that were already in the Congo formed the Democratic Forces of the Liberation of Rwanda, which clue is sort of in the name. They wanted to overthrow the Tutsi Rwandan government, don't they? And then since that, the Rwandan army has invaded twice, accusing the Congo's government of supporting their Hutu enemies, which, to be fair, there's a pretty good case for that. And there's also their own pro-Rwandan rebel group in the Congo known as M23. Rwanda denies that it's backing them, but it's pretty obvious because they're supplying them and all but instructing them on how to sort of conduct their war in collaboration with their formal military. And they're supported as well, which further supports this notion, with 4,000 Rwandan troops, which sort of suggests that, yes, they are supporting them. It's also reported as well, although I've not been able to confirm this, that Uganda is also backing these rebels. But who are M23? So here's an example of some of them there. They were created in 2012, and they're led, obviously, by ethnic Tutsis, and they claim that they need to take up arms to protect themselves, and given the recent genocide, I can sort of understand where they're coming from. They take their name from a peace agreement that was signed on the 23rd of March 2009, and they had previously seized the Congolese city of Goma, which, spoiler alert, they've done again recently, and we're going to talk about that. But they were forced to retreat and suffered a series of defeats. And then there was a sort of peace agreement where they agreed to be integrated into the Rwandan army in return for a promise that Tutsis would be protected. But then in 2021, the group took up arms again because they said that the promises had been broken. And what we're seeing here is a continuation of that. So the leader of the group is this guy. That's not very zoomed in. If you could zoom in a little bit, see this cheerful chappy there. There he is. This is the leader of the rebel group. His name is Sultani Makagenga, sorry. Get it right. And he's a Congolese Tutsi that previously fought in the Rwandan army. So the links with the army are pretty clear. And on a completely unrelated note, we also have a merch store.
Seamless transition.
You're welcome. I couldn't think of any good way to segue that. We have some Islander 2 merch that is going to be disappearing off the store when we launch Islander 3. So if you like the look of the Islander t-shirts or the mugs, you need to pick those up before we take them off the store and move on to the next line. So it's a sort of final call for that.
Have we got any Kagame merch?
Not
Paul
yet.
Kagame merch, no?
The art of the deal, Paul Kagame.
Yeah,
Get millions and millions of pounds for your country in return for absolutely nothing. Every single time. Works over and over again.
He's a canny operator, I'll give him that.
He really is.
So this is the map that's being used to justify it. This is a sort of
pre-colonial
yeah,
map of
I suppose, whereby you can see it's encompassing a much larger territory. I think it's the stuff in blue in particular that they're interested in.
That certainly pushes into Congo territory.
It does indeed, yeah. But you can see that they're saying, well, we controlled this territory before, and, you know, we have a claim to it, which, to be fair, I can sort of see. But the important thing is that the Eastern Congo has deposits of minerals estimated to be valued at around 24 trillion US dollars, which is a lot of money, needless to say. And things like gold and tin and coltan, which I wasn't familiar with, but is used in many electronics like phones and cameras, is abundant there. And so it's going to be a very important region if you want to make a lot of money, which I imagine they probably do. And I've seen public figures. This is a Rwandan news anchor talking about these maps as a justification for it. And I'm going to read ever so quickly what she says. They eliminated our people who was born in Rwanda, same language, same culture, that they are Congolese, which is fine based on the post-colonial borders, and they are being told what they are not Congolese, I'm reading this directly, by the way, being killed, forced to leave, to go where? What are they? Are they Rwandans? Of course no, they are refugees here too. They don't have rights in their homeland. They are forced to flee around the world, and Western countries which are looting their land tend to give them refuge. Yeah, that narrative seems to be going on, that the West is exploiting the conflict for minerals, but also that's sort of what is going on here from both domestic sides as well, so I don't know what they're on about. Really? I don't think the West has anything to do with it.
That first paragraph you were reading there.
It's not the most well written, is it?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Can you translate?
I think she supports what's going on.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
I think that's the gist of it. But the important thing that's gone on recently is this, that M23, that rebel group, the pro-Rwandan group, has captured the city of Goma, which is just off of the border between the Congo and Rwanda, and it's a city of 1 million people. And it's also important, if I show you actually where it is. So here you can see, there's the border of Rwanda, there's the lake we saw, and the city is just there over the border. But this is important because it's a trading and transport hub for metals and minerals, and they process things like the gold, tin and coltan that I was talking about earlier. And apparently, according to the UN, if they're to be believed, last December around 120 tons of coltan was being sent by M23 to Rwanda every 4 weeks. So it seems like they've sort of capitalised on these mining operations already by taking control. And they've also noted a rise in Rwandan mineral exports, which suggests that they're already utilising these resources. They've also, the rebels in it, the M23 rebels, have threatened to march on the capital, Kinshasa, the capital of the Congo. But that's unlikely because it's 1,600 miles away. So I don't see that happening anytime soon. It's a very long march, isn't it? But yes, as you can see, they've still got quite a way to go because the capital's all the way around here somewhere.
Down on the eastern border there.
There you go. So I don't see them getting to here.
Sorry, western border. God.
From all the way over here. And one of the countries with the least amount of infrastructure in the world.
So just hike through the entire country, basically.
I don't think it's going to happen. What's more likely...
Zoom in so we can see the incredible road network that I'm sure that the Democratic Republic has.
There it is.
There's a few roads, I'm sure, paved the entire way.
I do the random street view test. Oh, wait, there's nothing there.
Oh, wait, can you not...
That's the only point that comes up. Oh, okay, it's a hotel.
And it's a hotel.
Never mind. We're losing focus. It's also worth mentioning as well that there are Western mercenaries involved. You can see these people are not African.
What gave it away? How can you tell? Are you racist or something?
It's their manner of dress, obviously.
Oh, okay.
yes, these people, I'm not sure who they're fighting for, but
The highest bidder, I'd imagine.
yeah, I would imagine probably Rwanda, but we'll have to see. It's also worth mentioning as well that South Africa sent a peacekeeping force that surrendered after only taking 13 casualties. Here's a video of them waving a white flag, but you know what that looks like. So there are also apparently UN peacekeeping troops as well that have been keeping the peace, supposedly, since 1999, and they have 10,000 troops there, most of which are not able to actually carry out offensives, so they can only fire at people if they're fired upon. And so, as with many UN things, they're not that useful, really, other than for just keeping order. So let's...
Not doing a great job of that either.
No. So let's actually have a look at what's been going on, because, spoiler alert, there's a horrible atrocity about to be discussed. If you don't want to hear about it, here is your warning.
This is a segment about African warfare, of course.
I know.
There is.
So in the city of Goma, there was a prison, and there was a female wing to the prison, and when the rebels turned up, they sexually assaulted all of the women, and then went on to burn them alive in the prisons, which is awful. I don't know how much more barbaric you can get. And there is a video here of people at this prison seemingly just running away. I think these are some of the male prisoners that have just escaped the prison during the conflict, which is exactly what a war-torn region needs, is all of their criminals released. But you get the gist of it now. So, I've seen this as well. It's very difficult to actually piece together from videos what's going on. There's a video here of people seemingly just leaving of their own free will, but there are, you can see, soldiers with weapons as well. Not sure if they're being forcibly removed, but it all seems fairly peaceful. It could just be that they're guarding the flow of people. It's very difficult to tell. But there have also been videos of them, the M23 rebels getting a good reception. And here's one here, where if we turn it up a little bit, hear them whistling and cheering, and sort of marching with them. You get the idea.
So let me get this all straight.
Mm-hmm.
Goma is in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Mm-hmm.
And M23 are, as far as the Congolese government are concerned, are rebels, but they're pro-Ugandan, clearly pro-Ugandan.
Pro-Rwandan.
Sorry, pro-Rwandan.
But they are also pro-Ugandan as well, potentially.
Okay. Sorry, but pro-Rwandan. And so as a general, broadly speaking, the people of Goma are pro-Rwandan then.
Well,
if they're welcoming these people, the M23 guys, as liberators...
This is unclear because no one's actually said where this is.
Okay, all right.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to click on it again. So it does
the headline is things are unclear.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
As with all conflicts in Africa, but it does seem like there is some organic support. That's the point I'm trying to make. Right. Is that there clearly are people that would rather be associated with them than the Congo. Okay. However, there have been some interesting activities. Like looting, and I don't know what was going on here, because what they're looting is leaves and carpets. If I could do, I don't know why they're stealing palm leaves.
There's a shortage, clearly.
They're looting the leaves, they're looting the carpets.
And some of them, I assume, are good people. I mean, the carpets I can understand. Broken into someone's car, nicking their stuff.
But it's basically overseen a breakdown of law and order, more so than usual. Because, of course, to Western standards, it wasn't orderly to begin with. And there are lots of other examples of this. Here are some Western-looking houses being looted. You can see here, these may be sort of compounds that house humanitarian workers, UN workers. I would be surprised if this was owned by the native population.
Be a warlord.
That's true. Yeah. But I'd also be surprised that they would be looting them through. Yeah. I think
do a
it's
great
just
job.
a Western compound, to be honest.
Yeah,
And they're looting.
and setting it on fire,
Mm-hmm.
but mostly peaceful though.
Yeah. And here's some more looting, if you hadn't had enough. There you go. Just seems to be the default response. If law and order breaks down, then everyone just starts stealing stuff. And you can see some other ones as well.
It's very similar, when we had like the 2011 riots in England as well. To be fair, people just like to steal if they get the opportunity.
And this is also the capital of the Congo, which, remember, 1,600 miles away, and they're still looting in their own capital when there's actually no threat whatsoever. So this is obviously
Perfectly reasonable reaction then.
The Rwandans are coming. They're 1,000 miles away. Quick, start looting.
So do we know, like these people, for example, other than perhaps just complete opportunists, are they sort of pro-Rwandan people?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's impossible to tell. I think you have to sort of be able to live in that area and tell who is what ethnicity.
Right.
And I can't tell that from CCTV footage. I'm not that good, unfortunately. But yes.
Letting the side down, Josh. What did we
know.
hire you for?
I'm trying.
I thought you were a scientist, man.
Haven't got my hands on enough calipers, I'm afraid. But anyway, they also set fire to the US Embassy in the Democratic Republic of the Congo as well, because of course they did. Even though the US is not really directly involved. Here it is.
Has the US even made a statement on this?
The bitter irony is they've condemned Rwanda. And the Congo responds by burning their embassy. It's strange. Don't really know the justification for this, but it is something that did happen. And what has the response been to all of this going on? Because this isn't necessarily something new. However, it's still very important because it is going to inform the political climate in the West. Because, I don't want to spoil what I'm going to get onto, as well as the fact that control of these mineral deposits is very, very important.
How many Congolese are we getting?
Don't presage what I'm going to say.
How many? Just rip the Band-Aid off. Rip the plaster off. Do it.
It's only been discussed. Nothing's actually been said. But obviously, the leaders of the Congo have urged young people to enlist in the army, which is somewhat expected. Here's an article from the Washington Post from 2019 talking about how women are actually fighting as well. Might actually see some women on the front lines. I'm sure that US aid money for all those programs are going to good use there.
Is it the Congo or the Democratic Republic of Congo that's one of the sexual assault capitals of the entire world? Yeah, I thought so.
We'll be getting onto that, don't worry. Great minds, Harry. So yes, their neighbours, the neighbouring countries around them, have encouraged them to talk with the rebels and the government to try and come to some sort of peaceable solution. I think they're concerned about it bleeding out and causing more disruption. And there's also been a summit of the East African bloc demanding an immediate ceasefire and encouraged dialogue with the rebels as well, so sort of going along with the surrounding nations. The UN, the US, France and the UK have condemned the actions and not placed sanctions on Rwanda. And I think that the reason for this is actually they're sort of supportive of Rwanda because they're more Western aligned than the Congo is. And if Rwanda gets access to these minerals, then it means Rwanda's going to be selling them to us. And so it's actually kind of good.
Convincing man.
Mm-hmm. So it's sort of one of those things where they're publicly saying, "Oh, we don't support it," but it's like, "Don't worry, Paul, we are top guys." Yeah, I think that's what's going on. And then
Paul Kagame needs me.
And the South African president Cyril Ramaphosa has accused the Rwandan Defence Force militia of inciting the conflict in the first place. Remember, the South Africans suffered 13 casualties before cowardly giving up, and this has led to basically Paul Kagame coming out and saying, if you respond with your military, I'll respond with mine. And it's also worth mentioning as well, we were talking about this yesterday in the office, but it's very likely that Paul Kagame once had a Twitter burner account, which he went under the name Richard Goldston. And one of the things he did was call the African Union useless and call South Africa's president a black... this is his words, by the way, a black retard. Why he said this, I know they have their political disagreements, but why that was the go-to one, I do not know.
I don't know if you've seen, there's a meme image that comes up of like the composites of an English man's face and a German man's face, and it's basically the same thing, and it's the Englishman telling the German, I hate your kind, stay away from me. It reminds me of that.
But yes, Rwanda and South Africa do not get on. And let's get on to the do-gooders, which are not actually do-gooders. They're terrible people that will bring a ruin to our civilization. But here is Carla Denyer, who I think represents Bristol, the Green Party. Say she wants to bring civilians. We must be opening up safe routes so that the Sudanese refugees, she's also talking about the Democratic Republic of the Congo there, are able to settle in the UK. And she was appealing to the Foreign Secretary about this. There are people trying to say, well, we've seen what they're doing over there. What we need is more of that over here.
Bring them to the West Country. Put them in Bristol.
To be fair, they would fit in Bristol these days.
Put them in Bath.
Yeah.
Put it in the most lovely places in southern England.
Put them
Why not?
somewhere-
Why not?
No.
Put
Why
them
not?
somewhere that they've never heard of before, where they can fit in overnight.
So, may I remind everyone what Harry alluded to earlier, that the Democratic Republic of the Congo is often referred to pretty openly as the rape capital of the world, which is not the kind of place that you want to be getting citizenry from, is it?
I wouldn't want to offend liberal sensibilities, but that is not because of the geographic location or some top-down culture that's been imposed on them. That's because of the people who live there. That's how they behave. It won't change when they come over here.
And here is CNN admitting this as well, just in case you think I'm being uncharitable. If even the left-wing media is just like, well, actually, it is kind of true. It's also worth mentioning, here is The Guardian talking to a soldier 11 years ago, and this soldier had sexually assaulted 53 different women, and that's just one soldier. Worth mentioning. It's also worth mentioning as well, a 2010 study of 18 sub-Saharan countries concluded that over half the population believes in witchcraft, magic, and voodoo, which leads to this. So there's an interview of rebel soldiers in the Congo, and they were asked why do they do this, and their answer was that it gives them magic powers to make them better at fighting. That is their real justification. All of the soldiers they spoke to admitted to several sexual assaults, and they all cited this justification. And the person interviewing them, I'm not going to play it because it's quite long, but it will be in the reading list on the website if you wanted to actually watch the whole thing. He asked them, well, is this like a patriotic duty? Because some of the women sort of willingly just accept that this is what happens, what is normal in their country, and so they see it as a sort of a twisted act of, well, I'm supporting the troops, but in a very horrible and disgusting way. And it's also worth mentioning as well, it's Empire of Dust, isn't it, the documentary that this is from, where the workers in the Congo are trying to build roads, and the Chinese overseer, I suppose, is just frustrated that they're completely incapable of it.
There are some fantastic clips from this that we've shown on the podcast before, but you should really track the whole thing down. And again, this behaviour does not change the second they come into Europe. It does not change by giving them access to big swanky hotels and benefits and Western civilization and culture. It does not change when you try to teach them not to rape people. This is how these people are.
And what's worse is we are putting money into these countries for free. The UK taxpayers spent $9.5 million supporting accountability and inclusion in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Apparently, I don't know why that is necessary. Just a massive waste of
accountability for what? All the rapes they commit, because they don't care.
That's not happening. Yeah, and
inclusion of what?
Mm-hmm.
What are we?
More rapists.
But the US as well. Over $1 billion, just about, in US aid grants to the Congo. And here, Rwanda receives more US dollars in aid per capita than all its neighbours, and 40% of Rwanda's budget is made up of foreign aid. And yes, I wonder which side they're going to align themselves with. I wonder why this is going on. It's obvious that they're basically buying Rwanda's loyalty because they have all the minerals. That's what's going on. And it is worth mentioning as well that Paul Kagame actually said that Trump did a good thing in getting rid of US aid, even though it damages them. He says, I agree with this. Even though we're hurt, we're going to learn some lessons about how to do these things ourselves.
That's a remarkably moderate way to address it. I was not expecting that kind of reaction. Fair play.
Yeah, so fair enough on his part. Not that he would turn down free money, understandably. And it's also worth mentioning as well, of course, that Donald Trump has been very critical of South Africa. And so Paul Kagame has a common enemy with Trump there in the ANC. And it seems like there's a coordinated effort between Trump and the sort of pro-Western African countries to turn on the South Africans, which will be very interesting because if basically the entire continent is against them and the world's most powerful country, then that's going to be very, very important, and it could determine the fate of Africa, because at the minute there's a sort of second scramble for Africa going on where they're scrambling for just resources. Basically, it's all about resources for electronics,
rare earth minerals.
That's exactly it. And this is something that gets overlooked, but is actually very important in the grand scheme of things, not only because we could get the refugees, we're paying a lot of money into the countries, but also it could severely impede our technological development if we don't have resources being exported to us from these countries.
Thanks for watching, folks. If you'd like to support us, come over to lotuses.com, sign up for £5 a month, and then go and watch Connor and Harry's detailed breakdown of the latest Nosferatu film. I actually haven't had time to watch the film yet, but I did watch the breakdown, and now I really want to watch the film. It's an amazing piece of work, and I think you'll really like it. And while you're here, go over to X and follow us at lotuseaters_com.